Miguel, you were at the Emirates yesterday. If you look back to last season, the injuries that they've got at the moment, it would have spelled the end of their season, wouldn't it? But it feels like after the transfer window that they've had, we don't seem to be focusing on those injuries so much and more on Arsenal's squad depth. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the obvious one is Odegaard. I mean, had he gone down in the way he did yesterday, last season, or any of the previous three, really, it would have been seen as a disaster. I mean, like, we remember actually it was at this exact time last year, because it was just after the September international break, that he had the ankle injury away with Norway. And there was real worry within Arsenal. Whereas now they could just, I mean, even on the day itself, they just carried on as they were. And I think it is going to be a big thing this season, because I asked Arteta this after the game. Obviously, a big mission of this window was not just buying a forward and giving themselves a different option there, but actually adding real depth. And that is a specific response to the fact that the Champions League is now a parallel league season. So it's going to be very difficult. I mean, like, look, the strength of Liverpool last year, say, was having Salah and Van Dijk on the pitch. I think they were the two players with the most minutes up until March, when Liverpool pretty much won the league. And they had a very strong first 11 and a pretty strong 14 to 16. Whereas I think Arteta's thinking now is you're going to need much more to maintain the same level if you have games every 3 days, which they pretty much do now until February. And also, it's funny actually as well, I was talking to people at Arsenal yesterday who felt a little bit aggravated, maybe with some media, about, like myself, about the reaction to the Liverpool-Arsenal game 2 weeks ago, because they felt basically, there was obviously a lot of talk about whether they're, whether that was a psychological blow in the title race, whether it showed they can't get over the line, because they felt it was just two teams showing each other respect, settled by a wonder goal. But Arsenal really feel they're there, and I think that depth points to that. Of course, I mean, the proof will be as the season goes on, but it does feel a pretty significant evolution from last season.
Evolution. Riyadh, welcome back, by the way. It's been far too long.
I didn't want to point this out, Darmish, but I think I was actually on the last show of the previous Carnation, so let's hope it's not an omen.
Well, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. You were at the Emirates as well.
I was.
Yesterday. Miguel mentions evolution. Is that how you're seeing it? Because if you look at the injuries, he just mentioned Odegaard, but Saliba's not there. Mm-hmm. Saka's injured. Ben White wasn't there. There are a couple of others who I've probably forgotten as well. And yet, seamlessly, they seem to be rolling on.
I think that's the key point, isn't it? The squad depth there. And Arteta's made a big play on wanting to have two players for every position. But you look at that bench yesterday, where they're able to give Declan Rice a little bit of a breather, still completely dominate the midfield. They've got Trossard, they've got Martinelli on the bench. They've got real depth, and as you say there, they've still got Saka to come back in. They've still got Saliba, who are two of the absolute key players in that squad. So Havertz as well. So they've got real depth, and I agree with what Miguel's saying there about an evolution. I think we've still got the same question about whether or not they're going to be. They've got no shortage of creativity, and it's about putting those chances away. And Gyökeres, he's got 3 goals. He scored another one yesterday. He, for me, seems to answer that question. But I think we're still seeing him at about 80%. I don't think they've come close to unlocking that yet. It's going to take time adapting to the speed of the Premier League. But I think what I noticed yesterday in the second half, and it's why I was actually surprised they took him off after about 70 minutes. In that second half, we were really starting to see a sign that with Eze and Madueke, he was starting to build an understanding, a relationship. There was the move where he's actually started it from over towards the left of the area. He's worked it into Madueke. He's overlapped it and then crashed it against the outside of the post. They're starting to become that understanding. If they can nail that, this team, this squad, they've got a seriously good chance. And of course, we've had the running commentary of the last few years that Arsenal, Arteta, they're destined for second place forevermore. This group does look different. If it falls short, it will not be down to squad depth. And again, we'll see what the situation is with Odegaard. They don't think it's serious. He'll be having an assessment today. You can't take a guy like that out. But when Nwaneri came in, there was no drop off at all. They had the options to be able to handle it. We'll probably talk more in depth about Zubimendi in a minute, but I look at him as that's the player who is quite possibly going to be the entire difference to their season. I think he drives everything.
Charlotte, we keep talking about squad depth. Now, in the Telegraph, it says, the subject here, Arteta new boys give fearsome depth, but will it be enough? The bookies still make Liverpool the favourites, but when you look at the Arsenal squad, is it the best squad in the league now? The most rounded and the most cover in every single position now?
Quite possibly, because if you look at you could get a starting 11 and then you could have a B team, as it were. And someone said to me the other day, if you look at the B team, they're good enough to compete like nearly at the top of the table, definitely mid-table as it is anyway. So if they can get, I think the most important thing is going to be how they rotate players, like giving Declan Rice a rest yesterday in terms, and it's Zubimendi and Marina, we were just talking about it as well. They've started 174 games together. They've already got that understanding. They've managed to build a team here who have already seemed to be clicking. As Riath just said, the front three, this is the first time that they'd all played together. It didn't look like that. So in terms of squad depth and the way that these players, across both, if you were to put them in an A and a B team, the way that these players are already connecting across the whole squad, I think that's going to give them a real advantage. But I don't think, as Riaz said, that it might not be the squad depth that sees them come short. I think there's a mentality, not an issue, but I think that's going to have to be something that they're going to have to really get used to get them over the line, because this is a team that's continually finished second. So those little bits to get them to beat Liverpool and to come first, I think that's going to be the difference rather than the depth. I think obviously the depth, they've got 2 players for every position now, so that excuse now is totally gone.
And just on that as well, actually, I mean, Arteta suddenly has a new challenge, although one he probably likes, which is maintaining the sort of chemistry and energy and vibrancy that you need for a title challenge, but also when suddenly he's got to tell, 11 players every week that they're not playing, and ensuring they feel involved. Look at Lewis Skelly say. I mean, he was someone who was so central to Arsenal last season, and he's barely played in the game so far. In fact, England was his first start of the season. But I think in response to that, it is a challenge for Arteta, but he's going to be able to just point to, look at the calendar. If they're playing every 3 games, like he mentioned himself yesterday, you're going to get to January, and if you've had 14 or 15 players all the time, they're going to be exhausted. Where the point of this now is, as you mentioned, yesterday, he brought out Rice for a while. Rice ended up coming on. But I think there'll be a lot more rotation between matches, and it's about kind of just keeping them at that level.
Which should help them on the injuries, because that narrative plagued them, didn't it? Oh, the injuries, like we said before, like that list of players you mentioned, was incomprehensible that last season you could list that name of players and think that Arsenal wouldn't be panicked about those players being out, but there was absolutely no issue with them being out yesterday. Everyone that replaced those injured players stepped up. It was a straightforward victory for Arsenal, probably could have been more. So I think that already shows progression from where they were at last season.
Sorry, I don't want to just cut in there, Dash, but I think it's really interesting what Miguel says there about keeping them all happy, because I think objectively and being rational about it, there are going to be enough games to go around, but it never works that way, does it? You will always have players who are unhappy, and Lewis Skelly is the case in point. It looks very hard in this current system to drop Calafiori, but
yeah, and they've got Hincapie as well.
Exactly. So he's going to be looking at how, obviously we'll probably talk about the Kobbie Mainoo situation later, but players in their nature, they won't look ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to be your man for November. I'm going to be your man for January. I'll get my games in. They won't look at it that way. They want to be in now.
Hasn't Gary Neville actually spoken about that? Was Ferguson's great strength in terms of managing rotation, that he would say to players, right, you're not going to be using much in October, but November's the game for you, son. And they'd go and get themselves pumped for that, even though actually they're being left out in exactly this sort of situation.
Nuno did it with Forest last season. In pre-season, he basically told, this is my starting pool, and this is like you have a huge impact to play in this squad, but you are going to be used off the bench, and look how it helped them. So I think it obviously can be done, but it depends on the temperament of the player and what it is that they want.
And that's where I suppose the manager's psychological man management is so important. Now, Arteta, supposed to be fair, I mean, this has been mocked at times, but he is obviously so obsessed with kind of actually how you psychologically manage a team and all the little tricks. So you'd have to assume he's thought about this exact problem a fair bit.
You mentioned Zubimendi. We'll come to him in a minute, Riath, but I think something that epitomises the current Arsenal is Noni Madueke. Now, Ryan Taylor, in his verdict piece in the Daily Star, has said, look, just 2 months ago, a petition titled #NoToMadueke began trending online. Now we're in a position where we might even be talking about Bukayo Saka having to fight for his place at Arsenal. I know people might say that that's quite outlandish, but the fact of the matter is that Noni Madueke is performing like he did for England in midweek, and now he's bringing that form to Arsenal. And the character that he's shown after all of the outrage almost when Arsenal signed him.
Yeah, for full disclosure, I did do an item in a column saying that I thought it was a very overpriced transfer and expressing some cynicism. I would add I did not sign a petition, but he was fantastic yesterday, and I think we've seen this with him. We've seen this with him before. When he's hot, he's smoking hot. He has that brilliant trait of being incredibly direct, incredibly aggressive. He gets the ball and it's right, there's the space, kill. You know, everything is what we want to see in terms of attacking football. I sometimes, particularly at Chelsea, I would watch him and question some of the judgments he would make. There were a lot more blind alleys than we saw than we saw yesterday. I think an element of good luck came from being up against a natural centre-half playing at left-back. But even when Neco Williams got brought over to left-back, he beat him from a standing start as well. I mean, he looks fantastic. He's incredibly exciting. I think the challenge for him this season is to not blow hot and cold. Everyone's going to face that challenge in football, that ability to try and be consistent, and we've not seen it from him before. But that was really good yesterday.
And in the same spirit of admission, I wrote a few times actually in pre-season that why didn't Arsenal just take the Gyökeres money and the Madueke money and go all in for Isak as well, because they did seem to miss that player of like that extra level. And now, I mean, it might be ironic that we're actually looking at it from the, especially given all we've said this morning about depth. If actually it's that depth and having two players and that willingness to alternate can prove a difference in the title race. But of course, we might be talking completely different today after maybe Isak comes on for Liverpool and scores twice or whatever.
Yeah, one thing I'd say about it as well, just on the Saka side of things, we're talking about a guy who does it repeatedly. Saka has, there's no question mark whatsoever about his quality and his abilities to sustain it. So I think it's going to be a great scenario for Arteta to have when Saka's back and he's fully fit. Have these two guys if they're both burning hot at the same time. But at this stage, it's very early with Madueke. It's just that the signs are so encouraging, and I had him as the best player on the pitch on the pitch yesterday. I love watching that guy get the ball and have a run. But you know, when we see him play against a few more natural fullbacks, we'll have a fuller idea.
3 points, 3 goals for Arsenal, back to winning ways. Did you enjoy that out there?
Yeah, of course. We came back here and we, of course, wanted to do a better performance than we did the last game. And yeah, I think we did that. So yeah, it was a great day.
Another goal in the bag for you. That's 3 goals in 2 home games now. Is there a better feeling than scoring here at Arsenal?
No, it feels amazing. So yeah, it's just a great feeling to score and of course get the win as well. So yeah, it's great.
Are you feeling quite settled now?
Yeah, it feels great. The guys in the team has been amazing. It's been so easy to get into the group, but yeah, of course it's a bit of a time where you have to settle in with everything around, and yeah, it feels good.
First time that we've seen you play with Eze and Noni Madueke as well. What's it like having those guys giving you service? It worked beautifully with Eze in the assist today.
Yeah, I mean, those two are amazing in their positions. They always do something special, and yeah, we could definitely see that today.
What was your viewpoint on Martin Zubimendo's, perhaps his first goal, which was fairly spectacular?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him do it in training, to be fair, so yeah, it was good that he pulled that one out today, so it's great to see, and obviously the header as well, a bit surprised with that also, so yeah, it was great to see him score too.
Look, it's a big week. Back to Champions League football this week as well. How are you feeling about that? And just as a squad in general, do you all feel like you are gelled, integrated, competition for places is going well and you're in a good spot?
Yeah, we focus on this game, and now obviously we have the game in Champions League on Tuesday. So yeah, we prepare for that one, and yeah, it's a competition that we want to compete in. So we're gonna go there and yeah, try our best and get a win.
Victor, thank you so much for speaking to us, madam. Thanks.
From Atletico Bilbao was a one-club man. It's a great honour for you, I'd imagine. It's a lovely tradition that Athletic Bilbao come up with every season as well.
Yeah, listen, really honoured. Some special names have been given the award already. They haven't yet got to Gary Neville. I'm sure that'll come in a few years. But yeah, listen, it's a unique football club. First came to my mind in the mid to late 80s when Howard Kendall left Everton to go and manage the club, so always been aware of them, and as you get older you understand how the club works, how it goes about things, so yeah, a really special honour for myself.
Interesting that you mentioned Everton there, because I was at Everton yesterday. If ever there was a game that summed up why Liverpool took the stance they did over Alexander Isak and why Newcastle took the stance they did in getting suitable replacements in, it was that game really, because both sides could really have done with a centre forward who could produce something out of the ordinary, and Alexander Isak obviously does that. Not that we're expecting to necessarily see him here today.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the teams are out yet, but the word we're hearing is he may not have even travelled, he may not be on the bench, so you know, he's obviously short, match fitness wise, maybe trainer wise as well, and the, you know, the manager and the staff feel, you know, an extra 2 or 3 days training, and then maybe he goes on the bench for the Champions League game against the Atletico Madrid.
How do you think it's going to work though, with Ekitike making the start that he has and that forward line of Gakpo, Salah on the right hand side of course? Where does Alexander Isak fit into it all? Where does Hugo Ekitike fit into it all now?
Well, Isak fits into it as centre forward, and I think when you pay that much money for somebody and he's of the quality of that he is, I think it'll be a similar situation to Salah, in that, you know, whenever you go and see Liverpool play, you'd expect to see Salah on the right and you'd expect to see Isak as the centre forward, and the rest will have to fill in around that, whether that is going to the left for Ekitike. But don't forget Gakpo's there, and he's not bad. You know, he's one of the best left-sided attacking players in the Premier League. You've got Vert off the front as well, so that I would imagine would be Liverpool's first choice from 4. And Ekitike can obviously fill in for Isak, maybe play with him at times and play for the left. So there's plenty of games, plenty of minutes to go round, and I'm sure the manager knows what he's doing.
Does Isak's arrival also help someone like Florian Wirtz?
Yes, in some ways, yeah. I mean, if you're a creative player and you're giving chances to one of the best finishers in Europe, it's going to lift your stats as well in terms of you know, assists. But I mean, there's a lot of talk about Isak, but the man you've just mentioned there, coming for a hell of a lot of money, hasn't been the start he would have wanted. I thought he was excellent in that second half against. Oh, he's dreaming there.
we're smiling, we're laughing because arneslot's just walked past us because the Liverpool players are just arriving, and I'm having a look down the line at the moment and can't see Alexander Isak at the minute. I can see Virgil van Dijk coming towards us at the moment. Joe Gomez just going past as well. But yeah, as you were saying, Jamie, the fact that Isak spearheading that attack can help someone like Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, I think it will. And I think, listen, I think that this week's a big one for Florian Wirtz as well. You know, 3 games in a week, the Champions League starting. He was bought for those type of nights. That's what you buy a player of that stature for. As I said, it probably hasn't been the start he would have wanted. I thought he was really good in the second half against Arsenal, and if he starts today, hopefully he can continue that.
I think what we have seen from him though, he's trying things, because I think he has the most runs off the ball up until now, the most progressive runs as well in the final third. And that says a lot about what he's trying, at least, to create that kind of space and create opportunities to find those spaces.
Oh, he's not a luxury player. You know, he's a hard worker. And I think, you know, in Liverpool, even going back to Klopp's time, you know, there was nobody who could, you know, as I said, be a luxury and not do the defensive work. I mean, Szoboszlai did that fantastically well in that position last season. But Liverpool wants someone to do that work, but also maybe provide more goals and assists than Szoboszlai did from that role last season. And as I said from Wirtz, yes, the hard work's been there, but he hasn't been bought for that. He's been bought to, you know, as I said, score goals and decide games.
37 consecutive Premier League games that Liverpool have scored in. Obviously, it was Szoboszlai's great free kick against Arsenal that kept that going as well. How did Burnley go about stopping Liverpool this afternoon?
Listen, it's going to be tough, but we know Burnley have an unbelievable record here. I don't think Scott Parker's lost
24 unbeaten games in league football.
Yeah. So they made a good start Premier League-wise. It was against Sunderland. It was an important one to win that. Even though, you know, 2 promoted teams, it was an important one to win. They were competitive in the Manchester United game. You know, very unfortunate there late on in the game. And I watched the Tottenham game when I was getting ready for Monday Night Football and the first weekend of the season. And there was a lot of good stuff in there from Burnley. Just probably lacked, as you would expect, that little bit of quality in the final third. But I think Liverpool last season had a couple of scares. I think in the first half away at Ipswich, Slot's first game, they were very fortunate to go in at 0-0. I think Southampton away as well. At one stage they were 2-1 down in the second half as well. So I'm sure, you know, the Liverpool manager will be mentioned in those games from last season.
I go back to when Scott Parker was appointed the manager. He freely admitted when he arrived as well that people questioned his appointment and he had to prove that doubters wrong. I think he's more than done that.
People question everyone. People question every appointment. That's just the way of the world now with social media. No one's happy. No one's ever happy at the minute. You just listen, whatever role you're in, you try and do as well as Scott Parker's done at Burnley and shut a few of them up. But yeah, listen, he's had a really good, I'd say, start to his managerial career, because I think it will go on for a long time. He's had different jobs. Obviously, he had the Bournemouth one, but he left very early after a game against Liverpool, I think, a few years ago. But he's done brilliantly so far in his career, a lot of experiences, and I think it'll be a sort of long and successful managerial career for Scott Parker.
Against Manchester United, were you surprised in any way with the scoreline?
I must say, Poppy, I'm not surprised. And even though I'm on the cruise, I'm still working. I just want to know when Grella, the captain of the ship's going to get on the boat. But we can have that discussion after. For me, it was a game that had more significance and importance to Manchester City than it did to Manchester United, because of Pep Guardiola and the questions that we have of Manchester City and the high standards that they've set. And if they didn't win this game today, it definitely would have put a bit more spotlight with Pep Guardiola and this rebuild and Manchester City that people expect them to be competing for a Premier League title this year. Again, when you look at the game overall, Manchester City didn't need to play fantastically well to get the result. I will probably say they were still in second gear the entirety of the game. They played through Manchester United easy at times, and I would say it was a comfortable win. You know, Manchester City got the job done in a Manchester derby. Erling Haaland scored as we saw, and that takes him now to top tied with goal scorers in the Manchester derby alongside Sergio Aguero and Wayne Rooney. More questions than answers again for Manchester United.
Nige, my worry is this. I've personally seen enough of Amorim. Obviously, I think you have as well. A lot of people are frustrated. But the other camp, the other side, says he needs time. He needs another window. He needs more patience. And I can understand all that. But the worry is, as an ex-player, if you're a player sitting in that changing room, you've got 8 wins from 30. Are you still listening to the inspirational stuff he says? Are you still listening to the new ideas he has at training? Are you still trusting the manager at that point when everything he's told you up to this point hasn't led to anything successful? The players haven't gotten better. The results haven't gotten better. So as a player in the changing room, are you still following his lead?
Greg, that's a great point. And that's my worry now. I look at everything that's happened so far, and we talked about Kobe Mainoo. We had a discussion in regards to him, how Ruben Amorim came out and said that Kobe Mainoo's fighting for place in the team against Bruno Fernandes. And then the situation with Kobe Mainoo maybe going on loan, and that didn't quite happen. And then you look at today's game, Bruno Fernandes, we've always critiqued and criticised, saying that we see Bruno Fernandes, to get the best out of him, put him higher up that pitch, put him in the final third to make things happen. It makes no sense to me that Bruno Fernandes is having to drop so deep, playing in front of a back four and spraying and making passes. You get the best out of him in that number 10 role. You look at the first goal they conceded. Phil Foden literally walked past Bruno Fernandes, and it's not Bruno Fernandes' fault. He doesn't have the defensive instinct of a midfielder that plays in that deep role, doesn't sniff danger in those moments of where to go, where my midfielder is, how to track a runner, because it's not his natural whereabouts. So you look at how Phil Foden scored that goal. You look at Kobe Mainoo coming on as a sub. There's so many more questions still at Manchester United, and you and I have questioned the back three. When you look at that back three, especially Erling Haaland's second goal, how Luke Shaw's so tucked in, how they took such crazy risks without having a real organised back three. Erling Haaland runs from his halfway line and scores very comfortably where I've always been very critical about it, saying that the back three that he has just still isn't good enough. And now you do start to worry, Grella, in what you say, that are these players really buying into Ruben Amorim's system? Do they really believe in this manager now? Are they starting to lose faith? I do like to be someone that likes to have a glass half full. But right now, it's becoming very difficult when you look at this situation right now. I personally don't believe that the players are really buying into it as much as they should. And I feel that Manchester United really are starting to head backwards instead of forwards. And just to add a stat to that, Grilla, Manchester United have lost more games in the Premier League 10 months than Arsenal have lost in the previous 3 seasons combined.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And also the way they approach the game. There's only probably 3 or 4 teams in the world that can go away to Manchester City and just say, oh, we're going to play our way. We're going to play our system, and we're going to play them toe-to-toe. Do you think the performance today was a little naive, the way that they just set up to play their way? Manchester United set up to play their system, their way. And when knowing that Manchester City sort of weakness is on the counterattack, is on if you defend properly and then you can go quick, you can hurt them instead of playing in sort of an open game that they played. You think the approach also was a little naive from Amorim and the boys?
Well, we know how he's going to approach things, and I think the thing we've got to be careful, Grella. Me and you and I have played in derbies. Derbies only have 2 ways. They can either be very good or very bad. There's no in-between in a derby game, and it was the Manchester derby. And for me, I'd have to say that, again, I found it was very comfortable and very easy for Pep Guardiola's side to play for Manchester United because, again, there hasn't really been a consistency. How many times have we seen Ruben Amorim put out the same starting lineup, the same team for, let's just say, a period of 10 games or even 12 games? Consistently changing things, it makes it very harder for players to get into a groove. Decisions that he makes leaves for more questions about Ruben Amorim, and he's very stubborn to his system. Again, it wasn't a fantastic performance by Manchester City, but they got the job done, and it leaves more questions than answers in everything that Ruben Amorim is doing. And you can clearly see the frustrations in the players now, and I think that it might not be too long till the players start to go the other way and really not to start to have faith or belief in his system and what he's trying to achieve at Manchester United.
Yeah, it's been poor, hasn't it? Obviously, we watched them lose to Grimsby, and then it wasn't much better against Burnley, and today it got even worse. For Manchester City, on the other hand, Nigel, they've had a rocky start to the season under Pep Guardiola, and a lot of people were questioning Pep, like, is this the end? Has the magic gone between him and the team? Could this really jumpstart their season now, do you think?
It's a great win. It's a confident win. It's a Manchester derby. Great for Pep Guardiola. But again, just like Grella said, there are still some vulnerabilities in this Manchester City side. And I think that they'll face way more tougher tests as the season goes on than they did today with a Manchester United side that were very disappointing. But it's a great win. I think it's also great for Phil Foden to score a goal. Everything that's been said, and especially with the England squad and the World Cup coming up, you know, people really want Phil Foden to step it up. He's really adored by many football fans in England and people in the press, and they want him to really push himself to get in that squad. So it's a great way to announce himself back with a goal today. And again, a player who played really well, I thought so, was Jeremy Doku. Looked like he was having fun. I think we saw glimpses of Doku when he first got to Manchester City today, just shaking and baking and, you know, leaving defenders for dead. And he had a real fantastic performance today. But I do still see a lot of vulnerabilities in this Manchester City side, but it's a very big win for them in one of their greatest rivals in Manchester United, and they can take a lot of confidence from this game today moving forward.
All right, Captain, before you go off on your cruise and start having a good time, before we let you go...
I'm not the captain. You're the captain in that outfit, mate.
No, the captain can't afford this outfit. Listen, let me ask you a question. Is there anything before you go you want to say to Gigi Donnarumma or his fans on the performance of today? Because I did see one of the saves he made was fantastic.
Wow. He made one save. He did his job, Grella. He dived and pushed the ball around the post. That's what he's supposed to do. And let's not act like he was completely tested a lot. He did the save from Mbomo, and I think he also did the save from Sesko when Sesko went through and took a ball on his chest. Did what he had to do. Just came out, made himself look big like this, Grella. Yeah, just spread yourself.
So how would you rate his performance?
Did his job.
Did his job.
I can't give him a rate. He was barely tested. He did okay.
By the way, Nigel, isn't it funny how Grella never wants to talk about goalkeepers unless it's an Italian goalkeeper? Like they never come to the front of his mind unless he can give some credit to an Italian in some way.
Yeah, 100%. You know, he can't hide his bias and favouritism for his Italian friends.
City half of things for the Manchester derby live in the second part of Super Sunday tomorrow. We've talked United. Merce, let's talk about City there. And there's a point made by Erling Haaland towards the end of the interview. It's a massive game for them, not just because it's a United derby, but if Liverpool, as we might expect, go to Turf Moor in the early kick-off tomorrow on Super Sunday and pick up 3 points, before they've even kicked a ball tomorrow, City are 9 points behind the champions. They can't be that far behind at this stage of the season. It's a must-win for them, isn't it, tomorrow?
Oh, absolute must-win. Absolute must-win. I don't put them in the equation anyway, if I'm being honest. I don't. I think there's a little bit of a rebuild to do. You know, you're missing one of the greatest players ever to play in the Premier League in Kevin De Bruyne. You know, Silva's another year older.
And he was still doing the business for Belgium midweek.
Yeah, he's a proper player. But, you know, that's only going to domino effect on Haaland. I mean, Haaland's not going to get as many chances. I was disappointed last week. They were comfortable, and then all of a sudden, Brighton bring on a few subs, change it up, and they just steamrolled them. And I think this is a big football match. I think for Pep Guardiola as well. I think, you know, he'll be looking at this if this don't go well tomorrow, thinking, is it work? You know, it's going to be a hard season, in my opinion. I think, you know, I just look at it for everything they've done. We talk about Man City like Man City 4 and 5 years ago. Teams don't go to the Etihad anymore and get their stomachs tickled.
Well, that's a really good point, Clinton, isn't it? Because it feels like with this City side, when you look particularly the last couple of games, we may have got a little bit carried away with that 4-0 win against Wolves, because Wolves have been very poor so far this season. But that aura that they had when they were winning everything, they were winning the Premier League time after time after time. Some teams were beaten before they'd even exited the tunnel. That's gone, isn't it, that aura?
Yeah, of course it has, because they concede too many goals and they've not strengthened in the defensive areas, and that's their biggest issue. They talk about Rodri, and Rodri come out after the Brighton game and said, I'm not Messi, not a one-man team. You can't just think I'm going to come back and be back to my best straight away. And he's spot on. He is so important to them, but it's going to take him a bit of time to get back up to speed. He's had a big injury. But I've always said it, in the fullback areas, they didn't strengthen. They lost Carl Walker, didn't really bring anyone in. And then they're looking in the defensive areas as well. Now they've lost to Kanji. I know they've got injuries, but they're so vulnerable. When they're dominating possession, they're open to counter-attacks at the moment. And that's what Brighton did. Mercy's right. They dominated, but can they go and get the second goal? They didn't get the second goal, and they got counter-attacked, and they end up losing the game.
The fascinating thing tomorrow as well, Tim, is going to be the goalkeeper. And for both sides, actually. We didn't get a chance to talk about Bayindir, who is going to start for United tomorrow. But Ederson has gone, 6 Premier League titles, a Champions League in his 8 years at the club. Before we talk about who plays between the sticks tomorrow, how much did he change goalkeeping in this country, Ederson?
Well, an awful lot, but it's down to the coach and the manager setting out the structure, you know, wanting to play out. I just think that he plays that ball better than anyone. You know, when they do put the squeeze on, he goes over the top. There's
8 Premier League assists in those 8 years.
Fantastic, but he doesn't just kick it forward like a big looping thing. Look at the trajectory of the passing. It gets there. You know, you can time it. You can assess where it's going to bounce as a striker. Amazing, just pings it. I mean, he's one of the best passers in the league, wasn't he? I mean, without doubt, long passer, fantastic. Sometimes decision-making, like all goalkeepers, when they pass it short, it's decision-making, it's not a technique. But look at a bump there from the goal pick. I mean, we interviewed him there. They have always got a chance when you've got someone like him, Erling Haaland, in your side. I agree with Merce. I just think it's a total rebuild there. I'm not sure Pep's going to be there to see the best of some of them players, but I'm just waiting for it to click. We thought it was the first game of the season, but it was obviously against Wolves. I think it will be a matter of time before they click. I think the worry for a lot of teams, they would go to the Etihad and think, you know what, it's not the City of old here. We can open up, we can have a go, and they will come unstuck. And I think it might be tomorrow.
So who ends up being number one this season then, Merce? Because James Trafford bought in from Burnley for £27 million, but now in comes Donnarumma. We know he is a sensational shot stopper, but he is in no way an Ederson in terms of what he can do with his feet. So long term this season, who is going to be Guardiola's number one?
That's a million-dollar question, because as you say, they like to play out. They like to bring people on.
Donnarumma changes that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he hasn't got that in his locker, but he's a great shot stopper. You know, for me, I'm one of them. Stop goals going in. Yeah. Goalkeeper's job. You stop the goals going in. I'll find the people that can pass the ball. If he does, he's got a great outlet in Haaland. 6'4", 6'5", how tall he is. He's a unit. Yeah. Put it up to him. He'll be able to hold it and get runners around. I think teams are just suffocating Man City now. You know, we see it We see it time after time now. They're going after them. And I know what Tim's saying. They will go and beat someone 5 or 6 during the season. But I don't see it on a consistent basis. I've sat on here many and many a time and watched Man City, and teams are happy as Larry to come away losing 3 or 4. 3 or 4. That ain't it anymore.
You know what, Si? How do you feel if you're Trafford, though? You've gone into the football club. You think you're going to be number one because you know Edison's probably leaving. So you're probably thinking, I'm going, or I could have stayed at Burnley. I know you're going to a huge club in Man City, but you're playing week in, week out at Burnley, getting into the England squad. And now you've brought in Donnarumma. And first
well,
and
he'll be
foremost,
hoping Donnarumma's feet cause a problem.
It doesn't matter about feet, because first and foremost, as a goalkeeper, you're judged to save. I want my goalie to save. Everyone forgets PSG were fantastic last season, won the Champions League. He had a massive part to play in it, in the group stages and the knockout stages. He made big saves. So if he's coming into that football club, he's coming into Man City not to be a number 2, to be a number 1. He could have been a number 2 at PSG. He's coming in to be a number 1. So you kind of feel a bit it's going to be a bit hard for James Trafford, but I think Donnarumma's going to go.
I mean, currently in 4 competitions, so he's surely going to get chances.
Yeah, he'll get chances, but Donnarumma's going to want to be the number 1 and play in every game, because that's what goalkeepers want to do. You're not working hard as a goalie. You basically just have to stop it and play 5-yard passes, don't you? You're not running around like players used to.
Unbeaten in 14 games in all competitions, including a very impressive 3-0 victory over Aston Villa just before the international break. It included a goal for their captain, Mark Guéhi. We thought it might be his final act in a Crystal Palace shirt, but the captain is still there, much to Glasner's delight.
Oliver, great to see you. Mark Guéhi, still a Crystal Palace player. As far as you're concerned, how did things play out on deadline day?
It's good. And I think it's the last time I want to talk about it. And I think, but especially the Crystal Palace fans deserve to hear how it really was. About so many things were written and told. So number one, I never threatened to leave the club, never. And the second thing is, so at the end, after many discussions, it was the chairman asked me, Oliver, do you think we can manage the season when we sell Mark? And I said, Steve, honestly, I think we can't manage it in a short term. Yeah? If we buy a 19-year-old fantastic player with about 1,000 minutes in the Ligue 1 and selling our captain with about 15,000 minutes in the Premier League, I think we can't manage it short term. And if then we have 3 centre-backs, and with our schedule, and if we have an injury in the back 3, I think it's very, very risky. If you want this scenario, this scenery for Crystal Palace, and you are fine with it, sell Mark. If you don't want to have this for Crystal Palace, then we have to keep him. And then he decided we keep him. So big credit to the chairman. So there was no, I didn't have to threaten anybody. There was no bad or no tensions between the chairman and myself. It was really just a discussion about sports. And he decided, big credit that he decided against the money and for the sporting perspective of Crystal Palace. So again, big credit to the chairman, and at least the same big credit to Mark, who handled it very well. So we talked on deadline day, we talked the day after deadline day when he was already in the England camp, and were always very honest talks, the same like before. And he arrived then, and everybody could see how he played for England, that he's 100% focused. The same here. Then it was written he steps back as a captain. Nothing true. He will be our captain as long as he is here, because he's just such a great player and such a great personality. And so much noise, and at the end, the truth is what I told you now. And I think that Crystal Palace fans deserve to know it, and this is how it is.
You previously said that if Mark was to leave, then there would need to be a suitable replacement. Are you surprised that the club weren't able to find somebody, as difficult as it is to find somebody to replace Mark Guéhi?
It's, especially in the last 2-3 days, it's not possible. Again, every team has its squad, and then if we get a new player in, also they have to react and buy another player, because every club wants to be competitive or has its goals and want to achieve them. And that was not possible at the end. And before, we could talk about many reasons why it didn't happen, but at the end it was on deadline day, how I told you. And I think now we should close the book of transfer window. It was open long enough. We could read many things, and the most important thing is that there was a happy ending.
When Amorim is actually breaking down, we're getting closer, it's looking better, I'm getting that feeling. These statistics that I'm reading out to you right now are telling me he's not far away from having the team that he wants. All they've got to do now is score more goals. All they've got to do now is stop making mistakes defensively, and you'll have yourself an opportunity. The squad's good enough, Adam. It's really good. It's talented. I know they've had a goalkeeping issue, but it's a talented squad.
How important, Ian, is the timing of this game? It is difficult after the international break. Both teams have had players, all over the world playing in these international games. How do you think that will affect what type of game we see?
You never quite know what to expect, and I think sometimes when you have a match of this magnitude right after the international break, it lets you down. And I think players coming back from worldwide travel is also very important to recognise which 11 you go with. I don't think City can really rotate too much because they've got so many injuries to deal with. United have a host of players that they can actually put out there now, which is good because it looks like a relatively fit squad outside of a few. But I do think that it's still a derby game, right? And let's not forget that this is a massive game for both clubs. They both need to get back to winning ways in some way, and derby games can influence the rest of your season. I think for City in particular, if they're going to challenge for the title, these are the games they've got to win. Didn't work out great against Manchester United last season. They were very poor against United in the derby last season, but they were poor overall. I think we can agree last season. And I do think that for United, it's massive just to simply get a result, a positive result. If they get a victory, they're trending in the right direction again. So room for improvement from both sides. But I think after the international break, draw seems favourable to both sides, but I think both teams are going out for the win.
They certainly are. Trending in the wrong direction, you could say, for Manchester City, certainly over the last season and a bit. And I think we both expected them to really hit the ground running this season and prove some of the doubters wrong for what happened last season. But they haven't really done that so far. And we talk, don't we, often about clubs and managers and players. It's a life cycle of up and down. Do you feel like we're sort of getting towards the end of the cycle for Pep Guardiola at City?
I'd love to think that we're getting closer to the end and hoping that Manchester City can challenge at the top of the table again. I don't think it will necessarily be the case. I think we got maybe a little too carried away after that performance against Wolves, and then all of a sudden realised it was against Wolves. And then they got spanked at home against Spurs. I think realisation kicked in pretty quickly in that last game against Brighton, which was quite the surprise to them and a shock to their system. Especially when you're leading the game, you've got to try and win those games. And normally Manchester City see those games out. So desperately disappointing where they are right now in the Premier League standings. But I do think that when you've got Pep Guardiola at the sidelines and you've got some new players introduced to your squad, you still have this fresh feel about it. And I'm looking at what's projected to be that starting 11 going in, and it's not easy to project exactly who's going to play because of the injuries that they're dealing with. But I got a feeling that one player in particular who's not been playing well, Phil Foden, will probably get his opportunity from the start in this game alongside Erling Haaland, who's just come off an absolute banger of an international break where he bagged 5 goals and 2 assists in one single game. Rodri back is not the Rodri from previous. He's going to take some time to get back to being that player that we all love, and obviously Manchester City fans got the statistics behind him by winning every game that he played in, at least when he started. Defensively with Donnarumma in between the sticks is probably the biggest talking point, because now we're going into a derby not only knowing or hoping that you can actually win the game, you're now hoping that you're not conceding and that your goalkeeper settle in for both teams. It's not just City who have got a new goalkeeper.
But what about Pep? Obviously, he's got a lot of rope at the club, given his success over so many years, what he's achieved, the connection that he's got with the fans. But eventually that rope is going to run out. How long do you think they'll give him before, or is it just completely on his terms? When he wants to go, he'll go. Surely at some point they're going to say, well, we've got all these players, we're spending all this money, we've got to do better than this.
Listen, I've been fortunate enough to be a part and working around City Football Group for about 8 or 9 years of my life, and understanding that winning mentality and the culture that they grow and have around there. It is obviously about winning, but it's a professional understanding. They treat everyone so respectfully, it's unbelievable. They have so much love for Pep Guardiola and what he's done for that football club, what he's done for Manchester City as a business, what he's done for City Football Group as a business. Because of Manchester City's success, City Football Group have then been able to build their fortress of clubs around the world and financially absolutely dominate, but also create opportunity for young players to go to City Football Group and grow the next generation of talented players within their system. And it's in large part down to what Pep Guardiola did with Manchester City. So I'm saying and leaning on the lines of they'll be patient with him and they'll give him enough time. It will never be a Pep's out, he's fired, results are not good. I don't ever foresee something like that. They've got far too much respect in how they deal with someone like Pep Guardiola. I think it would be more Pep Guardiola deciding that he can't offer anything more to Manchester City. But he clearly does feel like he can, Adam. That's why he stayed there. That's why he signed a new contract. That's why they're spending as much money. Pep believes that he can get City back to the top of the Premier League, and I think he believes he can get them there this year.
A lot of United fans, certainly the ones I spoke to, did feel like this summer, the money spent, the fact that Amorim have had a bit of time, was going to be, you know, finally the turning point. And it hasn't really looked like that at the start of the season. I know we're only 3 games in. When do you think the patience will begin to wear thin with this man? Because he's had an opportunity to spend lots of money, bring in the players he's wanted, but they're not really doing what you would expect from a team with this kind of quality on the pitch.
No, I think people are already wearing thin with him right now. And of course, what you've already seen earlier on in our show, it's obviously a natural instinctive reaction for fans to be upset about results. And obviously, with a history of winning, it's very difficult for anyone to replace a genius. And they've gone through manager after manager after manager trying to find that genius who's going to have success similar to Sir Alex. It's not there. I like Amorim. I think he's a very good coach. Stats simply are a little bit different from results sometimes. Let's take the last 10 Premier League games for Manchester United. Now, I understand they're not scoring goals. They're currently sitting in a poor position. They're 17th in the Premier League for goals scored over the last 10 Premier League games. But they are first when it comes to shots taken, which tells me they're going in the right direction. Now, defensively, people will criticise United are conceding goals in big games when they need to get results. Take Arsenal, for example. United right now are second in shots faced. So I know results are not quite there, but when Amorim is actually breaking down, we're getting closer, it's looking better, I'm getting that feeling. These statistics that I'm reading out to you right now are telling me he's not far away from having the team that he wants. All they've got to do now is score more goals. All they've got to do now is stop making mistakes defensively, and you'll have yourself an opportunity. The squad's good enough, Adam. It's really good. It's talented. I know they've had a goalkeeping issue, but it's a talented squad. They'll do some damage, and I'll be very surprised if they're not in a European place at the end of this season.
All eyes on the Etihad for the Manchester derby on Sunday. It's going to be a thriller. Score prediction, Ian, really quickly?
2-2.
Talking to the media ahead of Liverpool's match against Burnley on Sunday.
Yeah. So a lot of things happened on the last day, which is not always the situation, because last season we hardly did anything during the whole window. But yeah, the thing that pleases me most is, of course, is us getting the deal from Alex over the line. Richard, ownership, everyone involved worked so hard to get the deal done, and it's very good for the club, for our fans, for the players, for me, that all the work they've put in resulted in Alex signing for us.
How close were you to getting the deal for Mark Gay over the line, and therefore what chance is there that you will go back in for him? What chance do you feel there is that he will become a Liverpool player in the next 12 months?
Nah, I think it would be a bit ridiculous if I'm going to deny that we were close to signing him. That is so out in the open that would be ridiculous. These things happen in football. It happened to our players maybe in the past as well, that they thought they were so close on signing somewhere else, and then in the last moment things changed. And this can happen, and for me, we would have liked to sign him, of course, because we were in for him, and he was, like I've said many times, if we can feel we can strengthen the team with a chance in the market, we never hesitate to do so, and that's what we try to do. But we played 1 or 2 days before, we played Arsenal, where Ibu and Virgil played an outstanding game, and Joe came in 20 minutes before the end, Joe Gomez, and did outstanding as well. With us signing Giovanni Leoni, who had his first international call-up, and Ryan and Watto that can play there. So it's not like all of a sudden we don't have options in that position anymore. It's a pity, but not only for us, but also for the player, I think. But he's in a good place, playing at Palace, where he won the Charity Shield and the FA Cup with a very good manager as well. So let's see what the future brings for him and for us.
Just to push it out, would you be thinking January or next summer?
If I'm thinking anything, you know that what I think, I don't tell you, but the thing I think most about is Burnley at the moment, I can assure you.
With that in mind, how ready is Alexander Isak to play for you and make his debut against Burnley? Because obviously he got his first minutes playing for Sweden against Kosovo. But also got to ask you as well what you make of the criticism he's received over the way things ended at Newcastle, and what kind of impact that has had on him, if anything at all.
Now, first of all, I think the Swedish manager Jon Dahl Tomasson deserves a big compliment, because he gets one of the best, maybe the best striker in the world in, and needs to play 2 very important games for his country, but understands that if he would play him twice 90 minutes, then probably the player would have been injured for multiple weeks. And that's not always easy for a manager, that he takes care of the interest of a player. And so he deserves a big compliment for that. And we will treat Alex the same as they did. So don't expect him to be every single game 90 minutes on the pitch. That's definitely not going to happen in the upcoming weeks. He missed a proper pre-season. I think he missed 3 or 4 months of team sessions. And so now we have to build him up gradually, with us playing so many games, hardly any training time. So that's going to be a challenge, but we've signed him not only for the upcoming 2 weeks, we've signed him for I think for 6 years. So yeah, this is what we have to keep in mind, and what the fans have to keep in mind if they see that I take him off at a certain moment, or I only bring him in for a small amount of minutes. That's all for the long-term fitness of the player.
And the criticism he's received?
In football, there's always criticism. So sometimes people cheer for you. So I think after he won the League Cup, everyone was really happy with him. And in other moments, you get criticized. This is part of his life, my life, our jobs. And now he's a player from us, and I'm really happy with that.
So you did mention Harvey as well, just obviously deadline day, Harvey.
Yeah. Another positive thing, I think, not only Harvey, but if I look at Luis Diaz, how he hit the ground running at Bayern Munich is a big compliment for our performance staff and the people that work in this building. So every time a player leaves, Tyler Morton does really well at Olympique Lyon. So that tells you how we bring players to other clubs. And Harvey is in a very good place, going to a very nice club with Aston Villa. I think it's in the interest of everyone. He didn't get the playing time he probably deserved for the quality player he is, and he conducted himself always so well. So it wasn't only when he said that this was his club that he wanted to say this to the fans. He acted inside with him not playing so much, but he was always doing what was in the best interest of the club. So he deserves a big compliment for that. I know everybody always talks about Mo and Virgil and the others if we win the league, but players like him were definitely also the reason why we could win it, because he always was positive, and if he had to play 5 or 10 minutes, he helped the team. And in every session he did, and that is partly the success of a team, that the ones that don't play that much have the right mindset. And I think he's completely ready now to show the quality he has at Aston Villa.
Arne, when you look at what Isak brings to the club, aligned with Mo and Ekitike and Wirtz and Gakpo, do you feel now you've got a core and variety in your squad to change games should you need to?
Yes, I do feel, but if the question is that the first time since you're a Liverpool manager, then the answer is no, because last season I could change games around with Diogo, with Darwin, with Lucio, with those three players that are not one for the reasons we all know, the other two that were sold. So yeah, that is what a club like Liverpool, what Jurgen probably could do in the past as well. This is normal at our club that we have multiple options and that we can change the game if necessary.
And looking ahead to this weekend, granted, players are only just coming back from international duty. Do you have a relatively clean bill of health? How are you shaping up for this weekend?
If the players are fit, that's yeah, I think they are. Yeah. We trained today for the first time with them. With most of them, the non-internationals did train with the under-21s this week already. Curtis Jones, of course, I don't know if you knew, but he got injured in the last game, so he will not be available for the game against Burnley. But I think the rest of them all came back without a problem, and that is almost. That's not always the situation, especially not in the beginning of the season where everybody comes from a different background, going to the national team where they then all of a sudden have to play 2 games in 4 or 5 days, which is always the biggest risk in November and October, and in March they are much more used to that program. So we are happy that they are fit, and again, a compliment not only for the Swedish manager but also for the others, because a few others like Ryan Gravenberg didn't only started 1 game and not both of them.
And in terms of Burnley, obviously they got promoted last season. Scott Parker's developed a team with a reputation for being defensively solid. What do you expect this weekend? How will you need to approach it?
Defensively solid, but I don't give them enough credits if I only talk about that, because first goal they scored against Sunderland was a great team goal. So good team, but yeah, like all the others, we know. My experience from last season is when the teams that were relegated now, so I replaced them for the ones that promoted. We had problems at Ipswich, we had problems at Leicester, and we had problems at Southampton, and problems with we only won it in the end phase of the game, so yeah, there's we know that every game is difficult, and I only have to look back at last season to understand that. Thank you.
Arne, we're obviously very familiar with what Alexander Isak can do on the pitch, but from your interactions with him, what do you make of his characteristics as a person? At Newcastle, he seemed very, all business and able to kind of separate the emotion in a really kind of focused way. Do you think that's maybe even helped him across the summer, and is that anything that you see?
Yeah, maybe people don't believe me if I give you this answer, but I haven't spoken to him that much. So I spoke to him after he signed by phone because he had to go to the national team. And the way I, 99 out of 100 times, treat my players during international breaks is I leave them for the manager that they are working with over there. So I text him maybe now once or twice because he's new to us, wanted to know how he did. But I do have to get to know him as a person much better in the upcoming days and weeks. But although we find it very important how someone is to because we have such a great culture here at this club, we mainly sign a player also for his qualities, and therefore I don't need to call him. We faced him a few times. I faced him a few times, and I know how what a quality player he is.
Hours time now. Huge news from Chelsea yesterday, charged by the FA with 74 breaches over agent regulations and third-party investment in players. The charges relate to the Roman Abramovich era. The current ownership say they're cooperating fully with the FA. We can hear from Enzo Maresca for the first time on this story now.
I know from the club that they are satisfied about the situation, about the process. Personally, I don't have nothing to add. First of all, because I don't have any idea, to be honest. So if I say something, probably I can be wrong or right, but I don't have any idea. I just focus, like I always said, in the pitch side, something that I can control. The rest is not in my hands.
Cole Palmer, where is he at in terms of his fitness, and how much is this kind of an injury that's he's fit or not, or how much is this about managing him over the next few months?
Cole took part of the session yesterday for the first time, not the entire session. Today in the afternoon we have one more session. We're gonna try with him if we see if it's okay. Otherwise, he will be out tomorrow again.
Is this a case of managing him, or is it a case of something that an injury that he's got and that he's now fully fit?
No, he was injured. He's a recovery from the injury. So he's not managing him. It's just a recovery from the injury. For sure, in the moment that he's available, we also probably need to think to manage a little bit him because of the amount of games.
And you've had Garnacho in the building for a couple of weeks, haven't you? He's been training amongst your squad. What sort of relationship have you begun to build with him? How have you found him in terms of what you can see of potential, but also him around the place, his personality, how well you think he'll fit in?
He's working well. For sure he needs to work because he arrived here probably not 100% fit. So he needs to work. He's working well, and we see, but hopefully soon we can give him minutes.
Thanks, Gail. Soraya?
Morning. You have Brentford next. Chelsea have beaten Brentford away just once since they've been promoted. Obviously last season you beat them last minute at home and you got a draw away. What makes this fixture so difficult, and even under their new management, what can you expect?
I think it's always a tough game. I was last year, as you said, in both games, but Premier League is the best league in the world probably for that, because against any club it's always tough. You see, we played 3 games. Palace, that is doing fantastic. Fulham, West Ham, it's always difficult. So tomorrow I expect exactly the same.
Actually hoping to stay longer. How does it feel like to see, like the story last weekend about someone from the club talking about engineering your exit and tearing us apart and all that stuff? What does that fit into? Obviously that's not been denied or footage yet, so how does that fit into all this?
Yeah, well, it was interesting when it came, when I was shown that. My honest take, I thought it was a cowardly action by whoever it is. It's not something that you would want, and certainly my relationships with the guys that I am close with here within the board, then I would struggle to understand the why, because like I said, since I've come back in 2016, or came here first and then done my second stint, all I've tried to do is drive the club forward. Was I surprised by it, Michael? Not really. I think I was briefed upon the first time I was here, when I left, and now since I've come back. But I'm thick-skinned, and it's because I want to do so well here, and determined to do so well. But I know Dermot, Michael, the guys that I work with on a daily basis, or certainly communicate with on a daily basis, they feel the same as I. But of course, when it comes out, and when the need for that to be out there like that, I think if you speak to any of my staff here, speak to players, they know all I ever do is give everything for them. I respect them. Most of them will have got new contracts in my times here. Staff will have had new deals and you know, increase their wages, and so I always try to improve the conditions for them. And okay, if there's something to nitpick, I would say, yeah, my drive is to make Celtic the very best it can be, but all within, not unrealistic, not Premier League money, not, you know, millions and millions and millions. And if you look at what I've spent to what has been brought in, that will also tell you. So yeah, it's disappointing.
when it does come out. And like I said, it's a cowardly action, but it just makes me more determined to succeed here.
That sounds like you know where it came from. Is that fair to say?
No.
I mean, I think back a few weeks ago, I think Todgy, a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, said that some people don't want you in this job, and we didn't really know what I meant. Was that what you were referring to? You been picking up on something? Is that?
No.
Person who was talking to the paper with that story on the Saturday morning, do you think the club should do the investigation, find out who it is? And you called them cowardly. Do you think they should resign if it's found out who they are?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. I think if you're sat in the position that I'm in, with, like I said, the weight of the club on your shoulders, and to be the spokesperson, and be the manager, and be the psychologist, and be everything, it's so important that you feel supported. And I think that, like I said, it's anyone that is briefing against that person, and whenever they know they could come and speak to me at any time, and I'm here from early morning to late in the evening, or come to my house, or do whatever, I would never think, listen, we all will have frustrations at times in our life, and especially Celtic people, we're always either moan about something or say something. But I would never ever think, and there's no disrespect to me, I would never ever think of going to bring that to the fore, to hurt someone else, especially that when that someone else is trying to give everything to the club, and he actually didn't have to come back but wanted to come back because of his love for the club. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that there'll be some questions asked on it, because like I said, there was quite a bit of detail in there, and wrong I may add, but hopefully we'll find out. Cheers, guys.
Speak to Anton Tolui. Anton, back with us. What can you tell us?
Ange Postecoglou is officially the new head coach of Nottingham Forest. The club has just released a statement confirming his appointment. Interestingly enough, in their statement, they go on and list all the things he's achieved in his career. The success in Brisbane, at Yokohama, at Celtic, of course, finishing fifth in his first season at Spurs before obviously going on to win the Europa League. No quotes for Ange Postecoglou in the statement just given to us by Nottingham Forest, but there are quotes from the owner, Evangelos Marinakis, who's made this decision to part company with Nuno Espirito Santo and bring in Ange Postecoglou. I'll give you his quotes in full. He says, "We are bringing a coach to the club who has a proven and consistent record of winning trophies. His experience of coaching teams at the highest level, along with his desire to build something special with us at Forest, makes him a fantastic person to help us on our journey and achieve consistently on all of our ambitions." After gaining promotion to the Premier League, then building consistently season after season to secure European football, we now must take the right step to compete with the very best and challenge for trophies. Ange has the credentials and the track record to do this, and we're excited he is joining us on our ambitious journey. So it seems as though it's pretty obvious. Ange Postecoglou is being brought in because Nottingham Forest want silverware. Marinakis said at the Europa League draw a week and a half ago, he doesn't just want to go deep in that competition, he wants to win that competition. Well, he's bringing in the head coach that won that competition last season. He's bringing in a head coach that's won in Australia, in Japan, in Scotland, with Australia, and now obviously with Tottenham as well. So he's hoping that this Nottingham Forest team will take the next step in its evolution, not just going from surviving relegation, not just going from the outskirts of European competition and getting into the Europa League. He's aiming for the very top. And Marinakis clearly thinks Ange Postecoglou is the man that is going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly hints at Marinakis' ambition, doesn't it? The way he's talking there about trophies and silverware and that Postecoglou has done it. But I guess Postecoglou last year at Tottenham kind of divided opinion, didn't he? Because, yes, he won the Europa, but 17th place in the Premier League campaign was a bit disastrous. How do you think Forest fans are going to view this appointment?
I think they're going to be Well, a little bit confused by the logic behind it, considering Nuno Espirito Santo is such a popular figure here, taking the team from 17th in the table all the way up to European football. But at the same time, I think Forest fans knew that the writing was on the wall as soon as Espirito Santo went public with his criticisms and worries around his relationship with the owner, and obviously the transfer business being done later in the window. However, Ange Postecoglou will come in with a team which has had an extra £180 million worth of investment during the summer and go, do you know what? This team, I think I can bring an attacking brand to this team that has been lacking for some time. They have pragmatic football under Steve Cooper in the Premier League. They have pragmatic football under Nuno Espirito Santo when they went up further into the Premier League. Obviously now they're looking for a little bit more style. They've got 9 forwards at this football club, each of whom could easily start in the Premier League or in the Europa League this season. They've spent millions and millions of pounds on the likes of Amari Hutchinson for £35 million, Dylan Bakwa for £35 million, Igor Jesus, who was scoring goals at the Club World Cup, James McAtee, Arno Kaliuwendo as well. They've spent so much on attackers this window. Ange Postecoglou is seen as the guy who's going to come in, find the right formula, and also get the most out of players they're given new contracts to him, Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi as well. It's a new era at Nottingham Forest. It's going to be some new-look football at Nottingham Forest. Whether it's successful, we wait to find out. The first game is a fascinating one, isn't it? Ange Postecoglou, the former Tottenham boss, takes his new Nottingham Forest side to the Emirates to take on Arsenal at Saturday at 12:30.
Yeah, that's a huge game, and he hasn't shied away from it, has he, that Arsenal away? But after that, Anton, 2 promoted sides in the league in Burnley and Sunderland. So I guess, you know, anything at Arsenal was a bonus, but after that, an opportunity to make an instant impact.
Yeah, exactly that. And then you've got the European campaign starting with a difficult trip to Betis as well. So it's going to be, look, that's what Nottingham Forest want, right? They kind of feel they're a little bit behind where they should be in the Premier League after that defeat to West Ham right now. And as we saw, Nottingham Forest missed out on the top 5 last season by a single point. So there is going to be pressure straight away on Ange Postecoglou to put Nottingham Forest back up the table, because clearly the owner is very, very ambitious. He doesn't want them to just sit around 7th, 8th this season. He wants to see them fly up the table or win something big this season. It's interesting because teams who enter Europe pretty much for the first time, the average drop-off when they enter the European competitions, the teams outside the Big Six, is 10 points from season on season. Nottingham Forest can't afford to do that this season. If they are, they will be out of the European competitions next season unless they win the Europa League. Ange Postecoglou has been brought in because they don't want to see that traditional drop-off from teams that go into the European competitions. They want to see the progress that's been made over the last 3 years.
OK, as for the man himself, I mean, Postecoglou, one of the big characters in recent Premier League history. He gives good copy, doesn't he? Good to have him back.
Oh, absolutely, and we're looking forward to when we hear from him for the first time, expecting that probably to be Thursday, we're expecting. That's when Nottingham Forest usually hold their sort of pre-match news conferences. They usually hold them 48 hours before a Premier League game. But it's going to be fascinating, isn't it? Because what is it that attracted him to this project? And obviously, what is his relationship like with Evangelos Marinakis? Marinakis has said previously about how much he respects Ange Postecoglou. Obviously, look, the two saw each other in the summer earlier this season. Marinakis giving Postecoglou an award for being the first ever Greek-born head coach to win a European club competition. So we know there's mutual respect between the two. It's a fascinating project at Nottingham Forest, isn't it? Because, like I said, they've locked up some of their best players on long-term deals. Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Matt Salles, Murillo. They're all tied into longer-term contracts now. They've got something to build on. Plus, they invested heavily in the summer. They've still got the likes of David Luiz, who's waiting to make his first start. James McAtee waiting to make his first start. Arno Kaliuwendo was fantastic in France last season. Is he even going to get a start? Igor Jesus, like I said, was scoring goals at the highest level for Botafogo last season, won the Copa Libertadores with them last season. It's about evolution of this team. That's what Postecoglou has been brought in to make the most of the investment that's gone into this team and try to get Nottingham Forest into that top 5, which will probably get Champions League football this season.
Premier League that landed late last night. And Nottingham Forest have sacked head coach Nuno Espirito Santo. Nuno was given a new contract in June, having guided Forest back into Europe for the first time in nearly 30 years. But cracks appeared in recent weeks, particularly with his comments about owner Evangelos Marinakis. And Sky Sports News has learned a meeting between Nuno and Marinakis to try and fix their relationship never took place. Well, Sky Sports News has also been told that the Forest owner was deeply hurt and angered by Nuno speaking out against him twice in public. The first time came ahead of Forest's opening game of the season against Brentford, which they won 3-1 as Nuno openly criticised the Forest hierarchy for the club's transfer strategy.
We are very far, very, very far from where we should be. We are very far in terms of preparation, in terms of planning, in terms of squads. So we are all very worried that 2 or 3 days' time we are playing for the Premier League, the more demanding competition in the world, and we are very far, very, very far. The plans that we had didn't come true. The preparation was, in terms of squad, was not ideal. We didn't have a chance to create what I think is more important, is the bond, because we don't know which squad we have. We have players working here that know they're going to live on loan. We have a major problem.
Well, following that criticism, Forest then spent £118 million on 4 new players in the coming week, and they were actually the 8th highest spenders in the Premier League during what was an astonishing summer transfer window. But despite those signings, just a week after his criticism of the club's hierarchy, Nuno then opened up on his relationship with Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis, admitting their bond was no longer the same. And where there's smoke, there's fire. In response to reports, his position at the club were under threat.
I always had a very good relationship with the owner. Last season was very, very, very close, almost daily basis. This season, not so well. But I always believe that dialogue and what you say or your opinion is always valid, because my concern is the squad and the season that we have ahead of us. But our relations has changed.
It's changed?
Yeah, it's not so close. It's not on a daily basis. So, yeah.
Is that a good thing, though? Or?
No, it's not good. It's not good. I think everybody at the club should be together, but it's not a reality.
Well, last season, Nuno defended his owner when Marinakis stormed the pitch at full-time following a 2-2 draw with rivals Leicester. Marinakis looked to have delivered some harsh words to his head coach after a result that dented their Champions League hopes. Well, Nuno won 28 of his 73 matches in charge at Nottingham Forest, leading them to a 7th-place Premier League finish last season, meaning Forest will play in Europe for the first time in 30 seasons, as well as an FA Cup semi-final. Nuno's last game in charge of Forest was a 3-0 home defeat to West Ham. They've picked up 4 points from their 3 games so far this season. They head to Arsenal in the lunchtime kick-off on Saturday. Now, who's in charge for that game remains unclear, but who could be Nuno's replacement at Nottingham Forest? Well, Sky Sports News has been told no one has yet been lined up, but these 4 coaches, widely admired by the Forest hierarchy. Oliver Glasner, Andoni Iraola, Marco Silva and Mauricio Pochettino will all be considered. Making the decision on Nuno's replacement will be Ross Wilson and Edu, the former technical director of Arsenal and now Marinakis' right-hand man and head of global football at Forest.
In the newspapers. Joining us are the Sun's Charlie White and Isan Khan from the Mail. Welcome to you both. We'll talk to you shortly. Let's quickly run through the back pages, starting with the Sun. On the back page, they've gone with the headline, Stars and Swipes. Tuchel saying, I've no problem leaving out big names. This comes, of course, after that 5-0 thrashing of Serbia. In the Daily Telegraph, Tuchel fires World Cup warning to missing stars. With so many players out injured during that Serbia game, the newcomers gave a very good account of themselves. In the Mirror, brave Chu Weld, Three Lions boss, insists he'll keep on making big calls and won't be afraid to leave out star names. Where could that leave the likes of Jude Bellingham, who was out injured this time around? And inside the Telegraph, they make mention of the so-called Drug Olympics. Proud, first Briton to join Drug Olympics. This is after Ben Proud, the British Olympic swimmer, has chosen to take part in the Enhanced Games next year. So after England's international window has come to a close, 7 goals scored, none conceded. Charlie, we'll start with you and the fact that the Sun have said that after these news players that have come in that don't have all the experience of the likes of Cole Palmer and Jude Bellingham, who are missing this time around, he has no problem leaving out the so-called bigger names when it comes to starting 11s. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's definitely the right thing to say, and it'll be music to the ears of all England fans, because I think in the past maybe they've felt that some players have been, always been a favourite. I think last night was a huge night for Thomas Tuchel, of course, but also for Noni Madueke and Morgan Rogers and Anthony Gordon, who played so well, who really took their chance. And of course, as you mentioned, there were some big players missing. There was Jude Bellingham is injured, Bukayo Saka and Cole Palmer. Let's not forget there's no John Stones, there was no Trent Alexander-Arnold, no Grealish, despite his encouraging start at Everton. There's no Phil Foden. Adam Walton was injured. So lots of players missing, lots of players that could be in the starting 11. But it was a real warning to these players now that they face a real fight to get back into certainly into the team. I think most of the big name players that I've just mentioned there would expect to be back into the squad. But, there's 2 more games. There's Wales next month, followed by a qualifier in Latvia. And, I can't believe that Thomas Tuchel wouldn't stick with those players. I don't think Jude Bellingham will necessarily be back from his shoulder injury. But, really encouraging. And, I think it's going to be a very interesting, October and November window.
Isan, is this a warning to a certain player, Thomas Tuchel, saying that he's not afraid to leave out the big names, or is he talking about a collective? I mean, how did you react to this?
Largely a collective, but when he says that, you do look at that attacking front line because of the plethora of options. Obviously, with the options they've got, that Bellingham, number 10, he's normally a shoo-in after the performance of Morgan Rogers, who, by all estimations, really shone and went above and beyond what you could expect of him, just coming in and hitting the ground, running. Obviously Elliot Anderson too, who's been an absolute revelation in these last few World Cup qualifiers for England. So Tuchel's in a very, very strong position here, and especially them attacking areas up top. There's so many options. Madueke, again, he's another name that's come into the fore because of Bukayo Saka's injury. It would have been absolutely off the radar to even be comparing Madueke with Saka just a few weeks ago, but the way Madueke played, Saka now knows that when he comes back, he will more than likely take that right wing spot, but he has to perform because those in reserve like Madueke are going to be chomping at the bit, and they are very much ready. And Tuchel seems to be open-minded, as we've seen in these last few games. He's rotated, used a variety of players, so he's still not certain in many positions across the pitch. He's still not decided who are his men. So for the players, it's very exciting that these spots are up for grabs, which in previous years it was a different equation.
Yeah, whether or not Tuchel meant it as calling out a particular player or the collective, Jason Burt in The Telegraph has used the headline, Bellingham no longer nailed on for starting 11. Charlie, I wonder, with Bellingham recovering from shoulder surgery and the fact that he might not still be available in October for the next international window, is there a chance that a starting England 11 at a major tournament doesn't feature Jude Bellingham?
Look, yeah, he's still one of the best, players in Europe. Let's not forget that. Not necessarily has had his sort of best games for England. He's had some, key moments for England, of course. Last year, particularly at the Euros. But I definitely think Tuchel was speaking generally. But equally, it's a tap on the shoulder for all these players, including Bellingham, knowing that when they come to England, they've got to play their best. And it's interesting because Bellingham has been playing as a number 10. I don't think Thomas Tuchel is convinced of him playing as a number 8, which would mean Declan Rice switching back to number 6. As Isan mentioned, Elliot Anderson was, the revelation, really, of these last 2 games. He came in and looked, just so composed, because the number 6 position is a problem area. And I know lots of people keep saying about the embarrassment of riches in this squad. To a degree, in some positions, but other areas we are actually quite weak. So I think we have to be realistic. Number 6 is one of those positions that, left back. Miles Lewis-Skelly's, great talent coming through. Livramento did really well. I'd still go with Luke Shaw personally, and I reckon he's been playing well recently. He'll be back in the squad. People shouldn't write off players like John Stones. I know Gahey and Konsa played well together, but I think sometimes we're a bit too quick to pension off players. England still need experience, throughout the team. But yeah, I think to say that, every position we're really strong in terms of strength and depth, I actually think is wrong.
It's quite an assertive statement, isn't it, from Thomas Tuchel? And I wonder if that confidence that he's now speaking with comes off the back of the fact that they thrashed Serbia at 5-0, and he feels like now he has maybe a bit more authority. You were out there in Belgrade, Charlie. Did you sense that Tuchel feels now more empowered to speak out about these type of things?
He was definitely in a good mood after, but both at his post-match press conference and then, a separate interview he gave to the newspaper journalist, which has been published this evening. And he needed it, didn't he? England have been he'd been manager for 5 games previously, been underwhelming in all of them, and this was England's toughest test. This was England's toughest test actually since the final in Germany against Spain last year, and they were outstanding. The Serbs were weaker than we thought, but there were some good players for the home team. Serbia have never lost a game by that margin ever at home. So I think you've got to give England a lot of credit. So no wonder Thomas Tuchel was in a good mood afterwards. No wonder. Morgan Rogers, who spoke afterwards as well, really well. No wonder they were all in a really good mood. There was big relief on England because there was a lot of pressure on the manager, I think, and the players going into that game last night, because a poor performance and a draw, and particularly a defeat, would have been really damaging considering how underwhelming the start of the Thomas Tuchel reign has been, in my opinion.
Yeah, you mentioned Morgan Rogers. He was in a good mood, not just because of his performance, but because in his commentary, Roy Keane has compared him with the great Gaza Izan. I mean, is that a fair comparison? That's a lot of pressure to heap on a young boy's shoulders, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. It's still very early days to make a comparison like that. But just based on that, on the game against Serbia, some of them touches were absolutely exquisite. That assist for, I think it was Madueke that he played through. Some of his link-up play, that drive, that energy, that willingness to take the ball on and drive forward, you can see them comparisons to Gaz. Obviously, very early days, it's one individual performance there, but overall, it's very promising for England and Tuchel. You've got Rodgers there. There's a plethora of players in them attacking spots that can be easily interchangeable, and to give credit to Rodgers, he's taken his opportunities. There's been, as we know, injuries in the attacking areas, and all he can do is put in the best performance he can with the opportunity he got, and he took it. There's one thing getting the chance to play for England in a World Cup qualifiers, another to actually make an impact and hit the ground running, and that's exactly what he did there. Yeah, him and others. Now, I just want to turn our attentions to a story that's come out today. The Telegraph have covered this one, and the headline says, "Sacked Coot charged with making video of child abuse." Charlie, just summarise what's gone on here.
Yeah, David Coote has been charged with making an indecent video of a child. He lost his job with the PGMOL in December. That was following an investigation into a video showing him making derogatory comments about Jurgen Klopp. And he's now due to appear at Nottingham Magistrates tomorrow. The category A video of a child, that's the most serious. So, he will appear in Nottingham tomorrow.
Okay, something for us to keep an eye on. Charlie, Izan, thank you for the moment. We're going to take a quick break now, but when we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including this in the Telegraph. Proud first Briton to join Drug Olympics. We'll be discussing that next.
that England can go all the way?
Yeah, I think so. I think when we played against these kind of low block teams previously in Andorra and Latvia, it's difficult, and those are not the games that Thomas Tuchel's been brought in to improve England in. We've always beaten those teams. It's against the teams that will come at us a bit more. How will those performances change? And I think what we showed yesterday were two things that we've lacked for a while, which is freedom, as you guys said, players willing to be, expansive and progress the ball a lot quicker than we have done previously, but also aggression and intensity. And I think that's key to any international team that wants to go far in a tournament. Players like Anderson, Livramento at left back, I thought was really good as well. The wingers either side of Kane, they did a lot of running, a lot of pressing, and looked to go forward quickly, both on and off the ball. And I think those are really positive signs that we've not really seen for as long as I can remember, really, as an England fan.
Sir Gareth Southgate did a brilliant job with England, no doubt about that. And you'll like him, of course, as a Crystal Palace and England fan. But he was often criticised for his style of play, rightly or wrongly. And Tuchel has been so far as well. Did you see something last night that actually suggested that England are evolving?
Definitely. You are right. I do like Gareth Southgate a lot. I'm one of his biggest fans, not just because of the Palace connection, but for what he did for England. But the only time I can really think of an England team under Southgate that played with that level of attacking intent was probably the World Cup in 2022. I think that was weirdly the best England team we had under Southgate, even though that was the earliest we got knocked out in a tournament. And yesterday we saw something that you need to have as a team that wants to go far in a tournament. And I think that's partly due to the players that have been brought in. We've obviously changed the squad a lot, and you mentioned the likes of Madueke, Rodgers, as I said, Livramento, Reece James coming back in, Gahey and Conter as well. These are players that haven't played much for England over the past few years, but Tuchel has a way of playing, and those players suit that way of playing. And I think us as England fans are going to have to get used to a change in style, a change in squad. I think there's always a debate about who should start where, and should Trent come back in, etc. I think we need to trust Tuchel, because that was a Thomas Tuchel performance yesterday. That was a Thomas Tuchel team, which England haven't really looked like since he came in. So the longer we look like that, the better chance we have, I think, of going all the way in the US next year.
But Ollie, on that where we say we've got to get used to the change of squad, change of tactics, formations, isn't that what we needed? For my opinion, what I see is, in the end, the squad kind of just got the same old squad with Gareth Southgate, picked the same players, whether they was playing for their clubs or performing or not performing, they was selected. I felt like the team needs to be refreshed. The group needs to have a freshen up completely in there. And listen, the players that missed out for injury, that happens, that's football, right? But the players that have come in, like you said, Elliot Anderson, Noni Madueke, Morgan Rogers in there, they've certainly thrown their name right in the hat. And they've got the shirt at the moment. Yes, we can say about the free players that are not in there, but now they've got to get it back. They've got to get the shirt back off them, because them three that played over them 2 games, listen, they've been phenomenal and deserve to be a part of the England squad and the starting 11.
100%. I mean, you mentioned earlier about Tuchel having a headache. He absolutely does. I mean, Madueke has been brilliant since Tuchel's come in. I mean, everyone, I think, can agree that Saka is a superior player to Madueke, but he's only played 1 game under Tuchel so far. He's missed 3 breaks through injury, and he needs to get some minutes quickly in the England team. And I think Saka has probably been England's best player over the past 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. But Tuchel needs to get used to players, and Madueke has been one of the best players that he's had so far. And Morgan Rogers yesterday, was outstanding. Again, I think that Saka and Bellingham will come straight back in just because of who they are, and also how they have played for England.
But we need a team. We've gone for so many years where we've just been going, because they pick themselves and they're great and they're that stature and they're that player. I totally understand that. But that's only taken us so far. That hasn't taken us over the line. That hasn't got us to glory. We need a team, a collective, not just individuals. Yeah, they've been the standout players. I get that. But where do we all go now? The argument is you're looking at, right, where did Cole Palmer fit into this team when he comes back? Who misses out here? Jude Bellingham comes back. Who misses out? The players that have come in there now, myself beforehand was saying Adam Wharton, he's a perfect fit. Elliot Anderson is coming in basically in them 2 games, man of match performances. It needs to be a collective for me. England need to be a collective and go forward. And if that is changing the squads and changing the teams, then so be it. Where we stick to the tried and trusted and keep getting people in because they're great for the group. I understand that, but be great on the pitch. We're England. We should be there fighting at the top end.
But for me, the Saka and Bellingham conundrum, if you like, is maybe slightly different, just because I think that Rodgers and Bellingham and Madueke and Saka are very similar profiles. So you're not necessarily sacrificing much or changing much in terms of how you're going to set up as a team.
Form?
I think
what about
Wharton
form, Ollie? What about form?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, let's say we get to the World Cup next year and Saka has, not really come back from his hamstring injury. Bellingham is stuttering a little bit for Madrid and Rodgers and Madueke are flown for Arsenal and Villa. I agree. I think you do have to pick players based on form, but you also have got to think about overall quality. I mean, that was one of the big debates about Cole Palmer in the Euro 2024, right? That he had just come off a brilliant season for Chelsea and then didn't start because we had players like Foden, Saka, Bellingham who took that place from him. The beauty of an international tournament and games going to extra time penalties is that we will need the whole squad. And I said that about Palmer during the Euros last year, that him coming off the bench rather than starting after 60, 70 minutes is not necessarily a bad thing. Would you rather have your best players on the pitch at the end of a game in a semi-final or a final or for the first hour? They're probably as important as each other, if not the latter being more important. So I think having players like Madueke and Rodgers who have shown they can play well in this setup under this manager, with Saka and Bellingham, who are proven world-class talent also in those positions, means that going deep in tournaments when, injuries happen, as Saka and Bellingham in particular have kind of missed games over the past few years through niggling injuries with their shoulder and hamstrings respectively, having those players knocking on the door, banging on the door is certainly not a bad thing. If I had to pick the team tomorrow, thankfully I don't, because it's a stressful job, as we're showing here by debating it so much, I would still go Saka and Bellingham, but that doesn't mean that Rodgers and Madueke haven't absolutely earned a place in this squad, maybe even the starting 11 going into the World Cup next year.
Charlie, is it quite hard at the moment when you're mentioning form, which I think the England team, a lot of people would say the England team should be picked on form. It is right now only September and the World Cup is a long way away and we're only at the very start of this season. So does that mean that actually it's quite hard at the moment to pick on form?
It is.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can say that it is on the form and all that building up, but that's the start. You want to be on that run. You don't want to be chasing the form. You want to be chasing I need to get better performance. I need to be scoring goals. I need to be assisting. But you need to get on that run straight away. Well, I think that also is we go on about the Palmer bit and with Bellingham and Saka. I want to see in the squad. I want to see starters. So people that are coming in that should be starting. You've got a good argument for starting. Not there's an argument that they should be in the squad. That's the biggest thing. And you need to hit form. And why not start now and build it all the way through the season so your name is constantly being talked about being an England starter for the World Cup?
100%. I mean, these players, Saka, Bellingham, Wharton is someone you mentioned. Obviously, as a Palace fan, I rate Wharton really highly and think he's got superstar potential. But they're running out of time to play minutes under Tuchel. There's a squad that is beginning to develop now and players are missing it consistently through injury, through whatever. I think we've got 2 more breaks before the end of the year. The likes of Saka, Bellingham, Wharton, whoever, Trent, they need to be in those squads and they need to be playing consistent minutes if they want to play, I think, in the US next year. And if we get to the new year and they haven't done that, then, maybe the team that played last night will be very similar to the one that will start the opening game in the World Cup next year.
Yeah, a lot can happen, but if we play like that, we will go far. Ollie, thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Serbia 5-0 in Belgrade in their most impressive performance under Thomas Tuchel so far. There were 5 different scorers and the result moves England 7 points clear in their qualifying group. Realistically, they need just 4 more from their remaining 3 games to qualify for next summer's finals. Harry Kane gave England the lead with his 74th international goal before Noni Madueke made it 2-0 before half-time. Ezri Konsa, Mark Gehi and Marcus Rashford with a penalty all scored in the second half as Serbia had Nikola Milenkovic sent off. 5 goal scorers, 5 different goal scorers, 5 wins in qualifying with 5 clean sheets. Let's hear from the head coach, Thomas Tuchel.
How this team worked together and was together in this camp. That's what I'm most happy for. And it was a very good performance with a perfect result.
Hi Thomas, Craig Hope from the Daily Mail. Is Elliot Anderson the biggest and most important find of this international break for you? And just talk to us about his contribution over the 2 games and again there tonight.
I struggle to put these labels on the players because it doesn't help if it's someone is the most important and the most important person who's missing and who's playing and in the ranking. I simply don't do this. Elliot was deserved. First of all, Elliot deserved to be with us because he did excellent for his club and for the under-21s. That was very impressive. Then when I saw him perform in the under-21s final, I had the idea that maybe he can be a number 6 and will maybe play into his strengths. And he was excellent in camp, like everyone else. The group made it as easy as possible for him, but he did he did all the effort that is needed, and he had 2 excellent performances throughout. So now it's on him to keep it going and to keep also the lightness with him and the freedom with him that he needs for his game. He's just a very, very good football player and was a very good teammate in camp.
Sam, on the front row here. Thank you.
Hello, Thomas. Can I ask you about another player, Noni Madueke? So this was his first England goal. He's only been an England senior international for a year.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of competition with Saka in that position for club and country. But could you just talk about what he brings that's different to other sort of wide attacking players?
Well, he has the speed and he has the ability to win one-on-one duels. He has the speed. For me, the most important. I'm very happy that he scored today and is involved in goals, because this is something he needs to add to his game. Efficiency, being involved in goals with assists and finishes and goals. So that's why I'm very happy today, because he played with the hunger and with the directness. And on top of it, he needs to stay focused. And I'm the most happy about his attitude today. The reaction after ball losses, the work that he put in to help Reece, because we played a back 4 against the back 5, so to help against the wing backs and to push forward again into pressing. So the work rate is what I like the most in his performance today. And from there he's fast, he's direct, and he likes to dribble. That's what we want from him.
Okay, James, yeah.
Hi, Thomas. James Ollie from ESPN. When you talked a lot about trying to create an identity. When you get a performance like that, I mean, what can that do as you try to build towards next summer? What can that do for the group?
That's exactly what we needed. I said yesterday, I have the feeling that this game and this occasion will bring out the best in us, and I feel that I had a point, because I told the players, I did not only tell you that we have a brilliant camp, and I love what I see, and I feel what I feel during camp on a daily basis. Then we had a bit of a stop-start game against Andorra, and result was maybe not the result that everyone expected from us, and I kept them in the belief. But at some point you need to prove it also as a player. It's not just only words from your coach. And they kept on doing, and I think they kept on believing, and they felt themselves that this is the spirit that we need in camp, and that will give us the extra level of quality. Because just today, I think, like, we saw a hard-working team, and we saw a team that worked together non-stop. They never stopped working, they never stopped pressing, they never stopped defending, they never stopped helping each other out, and that's how it should be.
Hi, Thomas. Was it important to get 5 different goal scorers? Sometimes when Harry Kane plays, they call it the Harry Kane team when he plays, and there's a lot of pressure on him to score as well.
Yeah, but he plays also very selfless. Look at him. Harry's the first one today to initiate the press. He dropped a bit more in midfield because we felt, and he felt, that they don't follow him as aggressive as the team from Andorra. You know, guys, I said we put all the effort in against Andorra, but you don't get the praise for it. So today I'm happy that the players get the reward, and that they have this outstanding result in a very, very difficult environment, that they performed on this level. And it's, of course, it's a perfect result, and it's a perfect moment for having 5 different goal scorers, of course.
Hello, Thomas. You mentioned before you wanted competition in the group. There's a few players that are missing today. Is this performance a good message to them, that no places are guaranteed? This is a good message that...
The message is, first of all, to us and to this group. What this group did, I told you, was that I learned that this is international football. You can have your ideas whom you want to nominate, but then comes the last weekend and players are out and players are injured and players feel something, and then you have to make hard decisions on some positions. So it is also on me to take these decisions. We took the group that was available, and we took the group that we made available for us, because we thought it's the right thing to do, to start in this season with this group. And they proved a point in camp every day. And they made it visible with this result and this performance to our fans, and that's what counts, and this is the message. And now we try to build on that, of course, but it can be changes again. Maybe we need to be forced to have changes again. I just told the group if I had 10 changes, the possibility, I would have made 10 substitutions today because everyone deserved to play. And I hope we can keep this going.
And just very quickly, the build-up.
Well, there you go. There's the England head coach Thomas Tuchel speaking after an excellent 5-0 victory in Belgrade this evening. This is what it means for Group K, and England nearly there in terms of a place in the World Cup next year. The other result tonight, Albania beating Latvia by 1-0. It is Latvia that England go to next before games against Serbia at home and Albania away. But as you can see, they're in complete control of that qualifying group.